Hello everybody, Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the last week of February 2018. And I have some updates and additional information concerning the Valentine's Day shooting in Florida. And this is more information that we gave you last week.
And it just happened then. So we've been collecting information through the week and appreciate the comments you've made on our YouTube channel.
So in addition, a woman who was close to the Parkland, Florida school shooter called an FBI tip line in early January to describe a young man with an arsenal of knives and guns who was, quote, going to explode, unquote, and she feared him, quote, getting into a school and just shooting the place up, unquote. They can't get more specific than that. She said to the FBI, I just want to, get it off my chest in case something does happen, and I do believe something is going to happen. This is according to the transcript of the FBI themselves. The FBI admitted last week that it failed to act on the tip, and in a statement, the FBI Director Christopher Wray said that, quote, we have spoken with victims and families and deeply regret the additional pain this causes all those affected by this horrible tragedy, unquote. Well, you know what, Mr. Christopher Wray, you're a murderer because you and your staff ignored a warning that someone was going to kill people and you let that happen, so you are an accomplice to murder. And according to the statement here, that law enforcement saw the violent posts that were online. The FBI and local police revealed that they had received several warnings about the behavior of this person. In the January call, and this is very important, the woman who is not identified told the FBI employee that Cruz had the mental capacity of a 12 to 14-year-old and had been kicked out of school for throwing chairs at students and teachers because he didn't like the way they were talking to him. The woman also provided the FBI employee with the users' names for at least 3 of Cruz's Instagram accounts where he wrote that, quote, he wants to kill people, unquote, and posted photos of animals that he had mutilated. And in fact, he brought a bird into his house, threw it on his mother's kitchen counter, and started cutting it up. And the woman said, to me, that would be a red flag. Yeah. There's several red flags there. It's red explosions. Cruz used money from his mother's bank account to buy several rifles and ammunition, including a gun that he bought online. And it's not clear whether he did this while she was still alive or not. Now, here's a very interesting bit of information. After receiving the call, the FBI employee based in the Bureau's West Virginia Tip Line Center, and the FBI's main office for information and storage of information is in West Virginia, over the gigantic underground city that's been hidden for years. This employee discussed the tip with her supervisor, and the two concluded there was no imminent threat and decided to take no further action, and the case was closed within an hour. Those 2 people should also be brought up on murder charges. During the call, the FBI employee had asked the woman whether Cruz said he was going to take action or that he just wanted to. Replying, the woman read the post where Cruz said, I want to kill people. So she emphasized, he said, I want to kill people, and they closed the case within the hour. And then after all of this happened, which we reported on last week, and the school was being shot up, when Coral Springs police officers arrived at the high school in Parkland, Florida, in the midst of the shooting, they were surprised to find not only that Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Scott Peterson, the armed school resource officer, had not entered the building, but that 3 other Broward County Sheriff deputies were also outside the school and had not entered. The deputies had their pistols drawn and were hiding behind their vehicles, and not one of them had gone into the school. The Broward County Sheriff's Office confirmed that it's investigating the claims that in addition to Peterson, 3 other deputies did not try to enter the school after the shooting began. Now, our lovely President Trump said that the armed school officer in Parkland didn't love the children. Well, Mr. Trump, neither have you, because if you loved the children or anything, none of this would have happened. Then, according to Broward County Sheriff Israel, that's his name, Sheriff Israel, announced that video showed Deputy Peterson outside the building where students were being shot for up to 4 minutes, and he did nothing. And he went in, he said, should have gone in, addressed the killer, and killed the killer. Yes, absolutely. So Peterson was suspended without pay, and after that, he resigned. Now, here's our president again, who suggested that one possible solution is to arm teachers in the classroom with weapons of their own to deter any would-be terrorists from another attack. Well, how would that happen? Would students then take shelter in a closet or behind some desk while their teacher becomes a trained soldier in a flash, maybe turning into Superman to protect them? And where would the firearms be kept? What would happen if an unstable student or an employee or even the teacher themselves who was unstable gets a hold of it? Then what would happen? How are school systems going to pay for the training and the tools necessary to transform the teacher into a superhero soldier? Well, again, quoting from the internet, we don't need guns on campuses. We need a culture of nonviolence, yes. We don't need just thoughts and prayers. We need meaningful legislation and action, yes. We don't need rifles. We need resources. But I'm going to add to all of this. We need the government to stop programming people to kill. These are programmed stalker, assassin, vigilantes. And we need people to be taught how to deprogram and to do deprogramming techniques. Then none of this will ever happen again.
I have a couple of things to add
Go
to
ahead.
the story. I wanted to also mention about this deputy that did not enter the building. He was suspended, of course, without pay.
And then
he chose to resign. But then what was interesting is the news service that I quoted sent people actually to interview this person, and they said they had deputies posted outside of his home and would not allow the news crew to even get near the home.
It's very obvious that the FBI and some security people were designed to allow this to happen.
And then here's another interesting story that says one of the massacre survivors, Colton Hobbs, 17, claimed that he wanted to suggest that they use veterans as armed security guards in schools. But CNN rejected that question and gave him a prepared question to ask at a town hall meeting, so he withdrew. But as you and I know, having dealt with television crews, oftentimes they want you to say certain things.
They're full of crap, most of them.
Yeah. And then
especially the news.
I also wanted to mention that the lawmakers in Florida now have decided to destroy this Building 12 where the massacre happened.
Yeah, no more evidence.
That's right. They want to build a new classroom space, replace the site of the murders with a memorial to honor the victims and their families. And this is going to cost between $25 and $30 million and serve 900 students. So that was interesting. And then, I don't know if you knew this was a statistic I just found that says apparently we're averaging one school incident shooting every 63 hours in 2018. And that the shooting at the Florida high school was the 17th shooting.
17 victims and 17th shooting. That's interesting.
Yep. And then ex-sheriff David Clark said that they're pushing for gun control by surviving Florida high school students is being organized by Democratic billionaire George Soros.
I agree. I believe that.
And apparently, let's see, he said that he's saying that the students have been accused by some as being liberal pawns. And listen to this, a district secretary was fired after saying 2 survivors were paid crisis actors. So
really?
Yep. So it could have been even a combination of everything. We don't really know since we weren't there. And then in Pennsylvania, there is a church that is holding a blessing ceremony for AR-15 assault rifles, not far from a local elementary school. The blessing will take place at the World Peace and Unification Sanctuary in Newfoundland next week.
Let me get this straight. is a world peace unification sanctuary,
Yes.
and they're blessing a weapon.
Yep.
Okay.
They're calling that the biblical rod of iron from the book of Revelation. That's what
calling
they're
that
claiming.
they're stupid morons.
And they expect 600 people to participate in this. And of course, the locals aren't too happy because it's close to an elementary school. And plus, anytime people gather, it's an opportunity for people to use their weapons.
Yes.
However, the elders say that the church is going to make people check their weapons at the door and unload and tie the weapons with zip ties.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how this happens because it sounds like it's like a recipe for disaster.
Really?
And then I wanted to mention, because personally I'm against legislation. I'm more like what you said, let's deprogram the people, but I'm against legislation because guns don't kill its people. So I just wanted to mention that in China, just a day or two after this happened in Florida, that 33 were dead and 130 injured in China on a group of terrorists who had knives.
Yes.
So if we take away the guns, then we're going to take away the knives, then we're going to take away the baseball bats, and we're going to take away this
I
and
read
take
a
away that.
statistic that said in the United States more people are killed every year by knives than by guns.
Yes, and not only that, more people now are being killed by heroin and drugs. 50,000 lives per year in the U.S. are lost to heroin. So the thing is that before we start getting all excited about guns, I think we really need to talk about what's going on within people's minds. And if people are going to kill, I will tell you, they're going to find a way to do it. I don't care what you take away from them.
That's true.
It doesn't matter. I mean, people throw acid on people. It has nothing to do with the guns. It has to do with what's behind the gun. It has to do with who's behind the knife. So we used to teach gun safety, and we used to teach how to use guns and shooting and target practice in schools. And even, I was talking about arming the teachers in Israel. Aren't the teachers all armed?
In Israel, every vehicle has a machine gun in it.
Yeah.
I personally almost stepped in one when I got into one. And you know what?
What?
There's no shooting in the mall. There's no shooting in the school. There's no shooting in the street. It's very quiet.
And when I was a farmer and I lived out in the country, everybody had a rifle. It had to be seen. We couldn't have concealed weapons at that time, but everybody had a rifle in the back of their pickup truck. So, and everybody saw it. And people went to school because the kids would go hunting or whatever afterwards. And they would park their pickup trucks in the school lots with the rifle visible, and nobody got upset about it. It depends on who's behind the guns. So I agree with you. These are programmed people. Most of them are on medication of some kind.
Yes, and they always hear voices in their head.
Yes, and this
which is programming.
yes, and this young man was also living with a person who was a military intelligence officer.
Correct. That's right.
And so
who said that he knows he locked the guns up and he thought he had the only key. Then where did he get the other key?
And where did he get all his other things? And not only that, but neighbors had pictures of this young man going out in their backyard and doing rifle
shooting
target
animals
practice.
and the
Guardians
did nothing.
Right. So there's a lot of things, and that the mother dies, and now he's placed with these people. Plus, it said he's due. This young man who did it is due to inherit $800,000 from his mother who just passed away.
Well, that should go to the people that he killed.
Well,
The families.
It should go to help people deprogram and learn about mind control.
And the thing is, again, I think I mentioned this last week, his birth information is non-existent. It just says he was adopted after they moved to Florida. Who moved to Florida? Where were his real parents? And why is his brother black?
Yeah, and the other thing, which somebody wrote on the YouTube comments, and I didn't have a chance to research it, is that they said that the mother was Jewish, which is another tie to Israel.
The birth mother or the adopted mother?
The birth mother. But where they got that information, I don't know.
So let's say he had a Jewish birth mother, his brother is black, and yet he was belonged to a racist group.
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense.
No. And then look at the last name, like we've talked about
Cruz.
last week.
And what racist group would allow someone with a Hispanic last name?
Yeah.
Something is very wrong, people, with this story. And as you may know, I have police officers who are my clients and friends, and they think there's something wrong with this story too. So, and that goes back to the Las Vegas shooting and all the other shootings. These are setups. I'm not telling you that people didn't die. People did die, but it was set up as a stage ritual sacrifice.
And the people who did it were programmed individuals. That much you must know.
And I'm sure that they do use actors subsequently to fill in the blanks and cover a story and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying all of them are, but many of them are in the videos. So, to another pleasant story, let's look at Yellowstone again, because just in the last couple of weeks, since the last podcast, there have been over 200 earthquakes in the Yellowstone caldera volcano. And according to this report, the number of accompanying tremors is countless. Now, this supervolcano is capable of covering much of the United States under a thick blanket of lava and ash. But according to the National Park Service, Yellowstone generally has between 1,000 and 3,000 earthquakes every year. And they are saying it is not an imminent hazard. Now, remember what I just said. They said it is not an imminent hazard because every study has concluded that there is no magma that is ready to erupt with any foreseeable future. And what comes out of the hot pots and the geysers? Last year, 2,400 earthquakes registered on the sensors between June and September alone. But the biggest recorded quake in the supervolcano was a magnitude 7.3, which was back in 1959. Dozens of people died in landslides, and there was a lot of damage. And this is my favorite quote here from a geologist, last name of Poland, which is interesting. Mr. Poland said, one of the potential explanations, he uses potential, for why this area is so swarmy, with earthquakes he means, is that the whole crust in the area is still adjusting to the big earthquake in 1959. Oh, so almost 60 years later, there's aftershocks.
That's very interesting.
That's brilliant.
That's extremely interesting.
Brilliant. But he said there's still a threat for something in the area of a magnitude 7. And according to what he said, when they do happen, they're going to shake the region pretty severely. You think? Now, 630,000 years ago was the last time a major, gigantic eruption occurred. And the park still is on top of an enormous caldera. And they said that lava and ash can still be found over most of the continental U.S. in the last one. And there was a smaller one about 70,000 years ago. Now, remember what I said? That it said, where was it? That there's no threat at the moment. Okay, they have no threat. But then it says in the same article that when it comes to supervolcanoes, there's as yet no way to tell when an explosion is due. So then how can there be no threat if you don't know when it's going to blow up? Okay? So not brilliant here.
On one hand you're safe, one hand you're not. Again, right. That's programming. Kiss me, smack me programming.
So then whatever happens, well, we said it could happen, but then we said it couldn't happen. So brilliant. Just like the weather. It could snow or maybe it won't snow. We don't know. Anyway, but they'll tell you the year that it's global warming, but they can't tell you today's forecast properly. In fact, I watched today's forecast since this morning changed 4 times.
No, we are in Michigan.
Yeah. Anyway, moving a little bit further west to San Francisco, guess what? They have had a swarm of 60 earthquakes in the last week or so. And the San Andreas and Hayward faults are known to many in the Bay Area for their seismic risk. But the Calaveras and Concord faults also pose a substantial risk. And according to a scientist, it can produce a magnitude 7 earthquake. And here's another brilliant statement. We should expect to have large earthquakes in the future. Where did they find these people? Thus they say, we can expect snow in the winter. Brilliant. What a surprise, expert. Now, I want to make a bit of a personal statement here before you go on. And I address this to my friend the trolls out there in internet land.
There's a lot of you out there.
Because I read some of the comments and I'm like, really, what drugs are they on? First of all, I'm constantly getting comment about my little cross here. I'm a Nazi. I'm a Templar. Yeah, well, I am a Templar, actually. I am the Grand Prior of the Templar Order. And this Templar cross, which I call a Magdalene cross, is ancient, and was long before the Nazis, long before the Templars. It is found in every ancient culture thousands and thousands of years ago, and it represents creation and perfection in physical reality. And Mary Magdalene used it as her own personal symbol. And when the Templars found her symbol in Malta, they took it for themselves. So that will explain that. Now, the motion that I make with my hands, yeah, look, they say, he's making the sign of the devil, 666. I was imitating Trump. I do not make these symbol on my own because I have no reason to instigate 666, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Satan. It has nothing to do with the devil. It is the carbon molecule of six electrons, and
it has to do with the makeup of the human body.
It represents humanity, actually. So according to New Testament, actually, humanity is the Antichrist because they made it out of carbon. Next issue is that Janet constantly shaves that 666 or sex in my beard subliminally so that I would trigger you while I'm talking. But you didn't do it today, so I don't know if it's coming out or not.
I think that it's grown over.
Yeah, so I actually have to work on my subliminals in my beard.
Yeah.
I also have some probably in my eyebrows, my mustache, and my teeth. Can you see the ones on my teeth? Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
so,
we don't want to forget about the shirt last week. I almost forgot about that one. I don't know if I could
someone wrote in, why is Stuart wearing a vagina on his shirt? This is the Scorpion species archetype, people. If you read my work and you understand my work, you wouldn't make such ridiculous statements.
It's very funny because a lot of people will say on the comments, well, you guys need to do your research. It's like, you need to do your research.
Yeah, you need to read.
And you need to know who we are, rather than just stopping in and throwing out these comments.
So trolls out there, please find new material, or at least say something intelligent.
Well, they have to research our material, because in order to critique something,
you
need to know what you are critiquing.
They don't know how to read.
That's true. Maybe that's why.
They just listen to videos from conspiracy sites.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have a ton of material, and I always tell people, join our website, less than $1 a day, get to know who we are, read our books. You can even borrow them from the library.
You know what? I don't want those people to know anything. They're just,
But people, they're ridiculous because they don't have facts and truth. They need to know what's going on out there so they can make their own choices instead of just go. That is herd mentality, making those kind of comments. That is herd mentality. So
that's just someone repeating what they hear without knowing what they're saying.
And not thinking for yourself. So you need to think for yourself.
Okay, go.
Okay, next. I have more Trump stories. That's the other thing people will say.
He's somewhat full of material.
People will say, oh, you're for Trump, you're against Trump, you're bashing Trump, blah,
I'm
blah,
for
blah.
no political person anywhere.
We are just reporting the stories out there to
I don't believe in politics. Unless, of course, I was the emperor.
To give you the trends so you can figure things out for yourself. So, about Trump lashing out at Obama. Now, again, I remind people, these people are all related, and then they write in on the comments, prove it. Well, I'm not going to do your research for you. You can put it into Google and say, how are all the presidents related? How's Oprah related to Trump? You can do all this for yourself because it's in there, and over the decades we've been doing this, we have given you links, we've given you all the supporting material. Now it's your turn to take self-responsibility and figure this out for yourself. Oh, and also they don't like our clock chiming. I love the clock chiming. I'm sorry if you don't like it. That's my thing. I love the clock.
I'm not moving the grandfather clock for you.
That's mine, and I love that clock.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Trump lashes out at Obama. Oh, and they don't like the aquarium in the background either.
Well, how could they even see it?
They hear it. They hear the water. And then they say, turn the pump off if you've got sink water running.
Okay, they might think that we are waterboarding somebody behind the scenes.
That could be.
That could be.
For mind control purposes, because that's what we do. Anyway, back to Trump. Trump lashes out at Obama. He says in one of his tweets, never gotten over the fact that Obama was able to send there's that 17 again, $1.7 billion in cash to Iran, and nobody in Congress, the FBI, or Justice called for an investigation. Then he goes on to say, finally, little Adam Schiff, the leaking monster, and monster is a programming thing because we're bringing in the demons and the astrals. Well, not us personally, but that's what your politicians are doing. No, the leaking monster of no control is now blaming the Obama administration for Russian meddling in the 2016 election. He is finally right about something. Obama was president, knew of the threat, and did nothing. Thank you, Adam. Then he goes on.
This is Trump's tweet.
This is Trump's tweet, and he goes on to say, quote, if it was the goal of Russia to create discord, disruption, and chaos within the U.S., then with all of the committee hearings, investigations, and party hatred, they have succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They are laughing their blah, blah, blah off in Moscow. Get smart, America.
Well, they laugh their asses off in Moscow anyway. And they should, because America is stupid.
And then, remember I mentioned that they're all related, including Oprah. So now Trump is blasting Oprah over 60 Minutes episode, and where she said that, he said that he hoped she would face him as an opponent in the 2020 presidential race.
So he can make fun of her.
So he goes on to say, just watch a very insecure Oprah Winfrey, who at one point I knew very well because they're related and they had their pictures all over, and now they're setting this up to happen. This is what they're telling you. Interview a panel of people on 60 Minutes. The questions were biased and slanted, the facts incorrect. Hope Oprah runs so she can be exposed and defeated just like all of the others. And of course, Winfrey has told various media outlets she's not running, but has considered it. So there you go.
We don't need her.
Now, and Donald Trump Jr. now, a decade old.
Oh, he's another brainiac.
Yeah, a decade old quote has shown up from him. That was published back in 2008 in the New York Times.
What is it?
It said, quote, in terms of high-end product influx into the U.S., Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets. Say in Dubai, and certainly with our project in Soho and anywhere in New York, we see a lot of money pouring in from Russia, unquote. So that's going to get them in trouble.
Right.
And moving back to Obama, did you see the presidential portrait?
Yes.
He's sitting in a fortress
like he's on a toilet.
Of leaves, yes. And what's interesting is all the other presidents have very dignified curtains and dark paneled backgrounds.
And what the hell was she looking like? It's like, that's not what she looks like.
I don't know. But what's interesting, especially about Obama, is that he is not only this portrait of leaves, but then there are flowers all around him. And so they go on and on and on about the flowers. White flowers are jasmine, representing his birthplace and childhood in Hawaii.
Kenya.
The pink and gold flowers are chrysanthemums, official flower Chicago. And then the African blue lilies, which are a reminder of his father.
Yeah.
And then they bring in...
That's the only thing that was right.
They bring... Well, we don't know if that's really what it is. They bring in a New York botanical garden expert who says there's a language of flowers. This was interesting. The same is true for white flowers as symbols of purity, and listen to this, and certain spookier plants are unspoken symbols of death and decay.
Spooky ones.
Spooky ones. Unspoken symbols of death and decay.
Does it say what they are?
Many of these are linked to a time in Victorian history when flowers were used as a hidden or silent form of communication, almost a sort of living code. This expert goes on to say you could send a bouquet to someone and send your message through the flowers themselves.
So it's like a flower sentence.
Yes, so whatever they're hiding in his portrait, they might tell you a little bit, but there's more. And so even this expert says for the artist to include these in the presidential portrait is conveying something that's deeper than just the individual. So they're telling you what they're doing.
That's interesting.
And then Sean Hannity and other conservatives also suggest that this portrait of Obama is actually sexually perverted.
Why?
Because the artist, they say, has secretly placed concealed images of sperm throughout the painting.
Get out.
Yeah.
How does he know that?
Well, because this guy apparently is known for secretly concealing things.
But why would he do that one?
And it's interesting. If they would have put, Michelle/Michael in a field of flowers or leaves, we wouldn't have thought so much about it. But to put a man in there is a little weird.
Well, Michelle is a man.
Well, that's what I said, but she's seen as a female, so it's just all very, very odd. So there's obviously something going on there. It's almost like this Alice in Wonderland poppy field, whatever. And then the UN is bringing back an image of a third pagan god.
Oh, yes, I heard
Speaking of what's going on out there and planned for you. Religious leaders in Israel are concerned because the UN is promoting idolatry after word was released that the organization is helping fund a reproduction, notice the word, a reproduction, of a third pagan god, which is known as the goddess of extramarital relations. First, the UN was part of the funding for the recreation of the Roman triumphal arch that once welcomed travelers to the Temple of Baal.
Right.
Then it helped to recreate the statue of the goddess Athena that once stood in Palmyra. And now it says that they're reproducing a statue of a lion called Al-Lat, which is the third project of its kind.
I don't like it a lot.
Now, the author of this article, this was very interesting to me. He said, the promotion of pagan gods is certainly nothing new. And it again shows we're all living in what I call the opposite world, which is what I say as well, maybe in a little different terminology, but it's exactly true. And he says, this author, it's a world where most people do the very opposite action of what God has instructed. Our Creator, whatever you want to call your source, tells us to have no other gods but Him, but folks do the opposite, honoring false gods. And then a rabbi steps in and concludes that the real objective of the UN is to promote an agenda that has always stood as Israel's nemesis, which is idolatry. And he says that this third project, this Lion of Al-Lat, is an 11-foot statue that was in the temple of pre-Islamic goddess Al-Lat in Palmyra, Syria. And says that it is conjectured that Al-Lat was the pre-Islamic consort of the Arabian god Allah, and was used as a title for the goddesses Ashera and Atharat. It was the continuation of the earlier Mesopotamian goddess Ishtar Inanna, the goddess of sex, and in particular extramarital relations.
Which was also the foundation for Isis.
Yes.
And for Princess Diana.
And Rabbi Daniel Asir of the Sanhedrin, said that the entire mission of the UN is to blur the differences between the nations in order to bring them all under one roof and one authority in a new world order. So I thought that was very interesting.
There you go.
And in the EU official Corinna Cretu said migrant ghettos could be a nuclear bomb of unrest. And she said, and I didn't know this, that the Union has a 310 billion pound war chest to deal with immigration. So what she said, she wants to use that money to stop the segregation of migrants in harsh and dangerous ghettos. She wants to bring them all together. So I thought that's going to be...
That wouldn't be a problem. Put them all together.
Put them all together and then do this. I mean, there's a lot of...
What could happen there?
But a lot of people in Europe who are not migrants, who are struggling, could use some of that money to help them. So
yes,
that's my feeling. And then in Italy, there's an election going on. Silvio Berlusconi.
I like him.
He's the ex-prime minister of Italy. He's praising the town of Sesto San Giovanni, which has expelled nearly 200 migrants, blocked plans to build a mosque, and working on installing facial recognition so that any migrant that comes in that doesn't belong is kicked out. He said the legal ones I don't have a problem with, but the illegal ones are sleeping on the streets.
Italy was a lot more fun when he was in power.
Yeah. So anyway, they're saying that this could be a prototype for other towns in Italy, which makes me think it's going to be maybe a prototype for other places.
Well, yes, it will be.
Yes. And did you know that scientists are concerned that the Earth's magnetic poles are about to flip?
I've heard that for 50 years.
And they're going on and on about it. It's interesting. It's like your volcano story because they say that a flip is overdue. Is the last one was 780,000 years ago. Like, how do they know that, right?
Well, that's when Yellowstone went off.
Yeah, and they're again, in my opinion, using this to instill fear in people. They claim the Earth's magnetic field has weakened by 15% over the last 200 years. And if this happens, solar winds could punch holes in the Earth's ozone layer, which means it could damage power grids, affect weather, increase cancer rates.
Which it does anyway.
It says that researchers predict that in the event of a flip, every year 100,000 people will die from increased levels of space radiation. And this is based on, guess what? Ancient pots.
Ancient pots?
Yes, that's how they've done all this. They looked at the iron and whatever else is in ancient
which
pots.
Which they know is a false way to look at things.
So therefore, that from these ancient pots, they built this story that all this could happen.
You know what I think? I think they were smoking pot.
Maybe.
And that's when they came up with that conclusion.
I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, AI. Everybody's into AI. And again, more fear. They're now saying that AI will be billions of times smarter than humans.
It is.
And humans need to merge with it. Ian Pearson, a futurist, said that we need to make that link between the AI and human brain, and he's agreeing with the things that Elon Musk said. In order to keep up, you have to link your brain to...
How could you believe a guy named Elon Musk?
I don't know.
What kind of a name is that?
Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. He said, over time, I think we'll see a closer merger of biological intelligence and digital intelligence.
Gee, what a prediction.
Yeah, and I have, and then this fellow, this Ian Pearson, goes on to say that he thinks humans are very close to achieving immortality. And he says there are a number of ways you could do this. It's probably not going to happen. It says if you're born in this generation, but the next generation, it says you can, first of all, you can renew your body parts. But if you don't want to do that, you can live in an android body.
Okay.
Because you can upload your mind into the cloud, and then you can rent an android body
and project it back in. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes. He said that in 50 years, you can hire an android anywhere in the world, just like a car, and upload your consciousness into it. But don't worry, it's only going to start out to be for the rich. So you poor people out there, you have millions of dollars.
You can't project your brains anywhere.
Yeah, and he goes on to talk about like sex dolls are starting to look more human-like, so they're going to have more realistic bodies. So you could either share an android body, you can own one, or you can rent one, or you can have dozens if you're rich.
So can you put like more than one consciousness in one of the bodies?
No, they didn't say that, but it was interesting to me because there's a movie they're now recommending called Every Day, where there's a spirit called A, and every day the spirit called A wakes up in a different body, same age, different race, different size, different gender, so on and so forth.
Were they Canadian?
I don't know.
Because it's called A.
Different cultures.
It's like
A. But so now you can have these robots, and you can become either male, female, young, old, different race, whatever. You can pick whatever you want to do.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. It says one day when your body dies, don't worry about it because you'll use an android body because your consciousness will be in the cloud.
Okay.
But it goes on and on and on about how the rich can, the poor can't. But don't worry, someday after maybe another 50 years go by, you too can have one, as if you want one. So, and then he even says it could be provided as part of the National Healthcare Service in the UK.
Well, according to this, when I'm 104, I could do this.
Maybe. Anyway, it says you might even be given one free, but you might be limited to no more than 2 or 3 because of the environmental impact.
You might have like one for every day of the week.
Yeah, because like he said, you don't want millions of... This is what it says in the article. You don't want millions of Kardashians walking around where they can afford it,
no.
and you can't. So we have to limit it, say, maybe to 10 bodies. I mean, it's just, to me, it's ridiculous.
One Kardashian is enough.
Okay, and then it says, you know what? You don't even have to have an android body. You could just live in the cloud and have a fantastic life and never have to participate.
Okay, that's called death and going into the next world.
Now, no, apparently, because they'll have your mind or your consciousness in a computer, and they can do whatever they want with it. Very weird. And then another guy at this Museum of the Future in Dubai called Marko Krajnovic had a collective consciousness exhibit which says we can all connect via AI and the collective consciousness, and again, you don't have to do anything but read everybody's thoughts. You won't even have to talk. And in Sweden, researchers are saying that they want you to volunteer to offer up your dead relatives for a study because they want to use AI to build androids that are fully conscious copies of dead relatives.
That's creepy.
Yeah, that's creepy. So they want to use artificial intelligence. They want to clone your dead people, I guess, the ones that are dead.
And put their conscious memories in there.
I guess. And then they want to reconstruct the voices of the dead, so then you can preserve your dead family members, like, forever.
What's wrong with just having them on a video?
Or in a cloud. I don't know. Weird. In Iceland, yes.
That's changed. They're not so good anymore.
Well, they're changing, but they have a new law that's up for vote, which would declare circumcisions in the country illegal. They're rare already because it's not part of their...
They don't do it anyway.
Yeah, but apparently the bill is supported from 5 different parties, and it says if anyone is found removing sexual organs from any child or woman, in whole or in part, they'll be jailed for 5 years.
What?
So apparently in Iceland, the age of consent is 15. So if the child, like for example a male, could not agree to undergo circumcision, or I guess a female circumcision these days, until at least they're 15 years old.
Who would want to do that when they're 15?
Well, who would want to do it
anyway? That'd be very painful.
So, and then it says that apparently in Denmark, this is also being talked about in Norway.
These are Viking countries.
Yeah, so they're all...
a Viking shall not have their parts cut.
Yeah. And then, now this was the weirdest thing, because I know New York Fashion Week, vagina wigs. Now this is for starters, your vagina...
Is it what I think?
Well, your vagina is... I hope you know what a vagina is.
Well, I wore the shirt last week.
a vagina is actually inside your body. Did you know that?
Get out.
But these things are in the front. Like, first of all, they have women, like wax all their hairs off and shave it. And so there's no hair there. Now they're having false hair that you put on top of that area.
So you shave it off
or
and then
wax
you put a wig
off.
on.
And yes.
That makes sense.
And it looks like hairs. And they have it like poking out of your pants. And like you wear low pants and then it pokes out all the...
I'm sure that's illegal.
Anyway, so I just thought that was interesting. But why do they call it a vagina wig? I don't know, because your vagina is inside. This is like a pubic area wig, maybe, but not a vagina wig. So whoever labeled it that.
No one's as specific as you are.
Well, apparently, these actually were popular, they said, in the 1600s, but they called it a merkin, and now everybody knows what a merkin is.
Are you telling me those proper ladies in the 1600s wore such things?
Well, no, basically they said sex workers. But this, the designer, I guess you call them. I don't really call it a designer. I think they're, like, again, programmed people. Her name is...
That gives a whole new meaning to flip your wig.
Yeah, Cayman's Models. This was her 2018 Spring and Summer collection, which was called Oriental Garden.
Okay.
And then it gets even more bizarre / programmed.
They need to get a job.
Gucci. Gucci now was having his models walked, holding a copy of their own severed head.
Okay, I don't understand that.
Yeah, but it says you can get something similar for only $115.
Why?
Like I would want to, right?
Why do I want that?
So to me, again, this has to do with the numbing, dumbing, all this beheading and severing thing which is going on. I told you it's becoming more and more mainstream. So this is, they're showing it to everybody. And not only did they show this at Gucci's walking down the aisle. They had cyborgs, they had third eyes, they had dragons, they had androgyny.
Vagina wigs.
Not on his. That was at this woman's, Cayman's. Okay. That's how you say it. And then because I didn't want to leave out all the UFO stuff, because we do have UFO stuff going on all the time, just quickly. Over Oregon, there was strange craft.
That's because they allow marijuana is legal.
Is that why? And in Norway, they captured a craft exploding into two.
They did.
And then there was a thing that became very popular this last week about a UFO over the slopes of Mount Everest. But
okay. I heard about that one.
Yeah, but that happened in 2012. They're just now bringing that one forward.
Because now they want to promote the staged alien invasion. So all the UFO stories are going to come out.
Yeah, so anybody that wants to know about aliens and more about our work and the Illuminati, this is the book
and
for
vaginas.
you. Yeah, Blue Blood, True Blood. And then if you want to know more about the Magdalene Frequency, the Maltese Cross, the Magdalene Cross, so on and so forth, this is in here. And remember, my trip to Italy in June, we are walking.
I have that down here.
I know. We are walking on the path of the ancient Waldensians, and we write their story in here. This is hidden history that most people don't know that the Catholic Church destroyed, and the Catholic Church promotes idolatry.
Well, that Catholic Church is a problem.
But the Waldensians have a whole different view of religion. It's in here. Okay? So those are two great books to have. If you want health and healing and you want to do some basic deprogramming work, the Hyperspace Helper is good. Hyperspace Plus is excellent. Healing Archetypes and Symbols.
Some of those look like vaginas.
Well, this is one of our most popular books, and it's one of our most recent. And if you're interested in programming, deprogramming, the true reality of sexuality, which has the vagina symbol, aka Scorpion Frequency, 13 cubed. And remember, on our website, we have blogs, and every single day, Stuart and I are on there helping you and teaching you. Daily affirmations, universal law. So we have it. We have studied this for decades. So this is another comment.
You got more stuff.
Yeah. They say, we love your work until you get to the end and you tell us about your work. Well, if you want to know who we are and you're interested in what we have to say, then you need to be interested in our work.
And then you make stupid comments about, my 666 symbols.
Yeah, and all kinds of things, and about our research, because we do, as you can tell, for decades of research.
It's huge.
So we have this one for children, or if you speak another language, it's great. We have Stuart Says. We have the archetypal story of creation. We have other books as well. We have books in progress. We have so much information. You do your research, please.
Yeah, seriously.
Come with me to Italy. Chat with me in person. Don't just throw.
I might get bumped off the trip
might.
because if more people sign up, my place is. She said, hit the road, Buster.
Hit the road, Jack. So in March, I have my self-healing webinars, which is based on this, and we also have. You can purchase them on the site. The webinars, very interesting. People who are doing those, doing fantastic work. They start up again in March and April. Then we start for the season. Your live television show?
Yes, we'll begin March 18th. And just a few days before that, happens, I will be giving you the link information and all the pertinent information you need to connect and see.
So watch the site, please,
Yes.
and the Facebook pages. Like our Facebook pages, everything goes on there.
My first guest will be Laura Eisenhower.
Okay.
And then from there, I'll be going on to Houston for secret meetings.
Yeah.
Secret meetings. They could think of who that could be with. Anyway, in April, right now, tentatively scheduled for Buenos Aires, April 14th and 15th. Then in May, I believe May 30th, we are both scheduled for a live TV show in Istanbul.
Which is a precursor to the Italian trip, which I just told you about. Remember, the area where the Waldensian people lived, it used to be its own country called Savoie. And sometimes it belonged to France, sometimes it belonged to Italy. It's a whole different ballgame.
It was once independent.
Yes, where we go is not where the tourists go. So it's a very reasonable trip, especially if you are already in Europe. You don't have the airfare, which we have when we come from the States. We have people coming from Germany. We have people coming from Russia. We have people coming from the USA and the UK. So it's going to be an amazing trip. So if you want to know more history...
Isn't Australia too coming?
No.
No?
Not that signed up yet, anyway. They may be talking about it, but nobody's signed it.
And Germany, you said, yes?
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah.
So we have people from all over the world. So be sure, like, comment, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let people know about Hyperspace Oversoul work. Spread the word that you can gain control over your own mind and do not be subject to all this other crap. You cannot legislate morality.
And just a quick, we just this past week received a long regular mail from someone in the UK, but that person did not provide an email address. So if you're going to write to me and not provide a way I can respond with an email, I'm not going to answer you.
No, and you may not get an answer anyway, depending on what you write to us. But as a general rule,
I'm not going to sit and read through, snail mail and then start writing a letter. No.
No, we have a very, very busy schedule. It is always busy. Your best way to get a hold of us, customer support at expansions.com.
Yes, and please don't ask me personally to book appointments for you. I don't do that. That's why we have customer support at expansions.com.
Right. So, but like I said, please don't just sit there and throw darts. Do your research. Don't tell us to do ours. We've done it. Now it's up to you to take self-responsibility, and this world will be a better place.
Yeah, and so if you'll excuse us, I have to renew my vagina symbol on my chest and also put my Nazi Templar thing back in its place. And you have to trim the numbers on my beard again.
Yeah, because it's growing over.
Yeah. I think they're getting the wrong signal.
Well, we have to be sure we get all this in our schedule.
Truly, it's a lot. It's not easy being us.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.